So I just saw Bionic Dance's video about why she prefers Star Wars over Star Trek. And let me start off by saying that I too like both Star Wars and Star Trek. But I prefer Star Trek because I prefer science fiction. And I don't think Star Wars is science fiction for a couple of reasons. The main reason is that it doesn't essentially revolve around exploring sociological, philosophical, or political issues. It hints at that in a couple of places, but mainly Star Wars is an action-adventure series. Now, it's one of the best, if not the very best, action-adventure series out there. George Lucas is a master at that kind of thing, action-adventure, like Indiana Jones, Star Wars. Those are fantastic action-adventure series. But they're not science fiction. Star Trek, having been thought up in the 60s by hippies, is explicitly political and philosophical. And for the most part has remained so throughout the years. And that's what interests me most about it. What I think is central to science fiction, or at least what I think is central to the science fiction that I like best, is allegory. I like that it can make me think about certain issues in a different way or through a different perspective using fiction. And Star Trek was frequently allegorical. The plot of Star Trek VI, for instance, was that the Klingon Empire had collapsed and was now having to ask the Federation for assistance in order to survive. And given that this movie came out in 1991, just after the Soviet Empire had collapsed and was now having to ask the West for help, you didn't really have to look too deep into subtext to understand what was being talked about in that story. And I love it when fiction explores ideas that can be applicable to real life. I like science fiction because of the ways it can mirror reality. I think Bionic Dance likes science fiction in the ways it can contrast to reality, and that's fine. But the other reason I don't like Star Wars as much is because it essentially has magic in it, and that's a bit of a turnoff. But I'll give you that Star Trek would be a lot more awesome if it had more starship dogfights. That would be kick-ass.